Hashtag the hidden engineering behind Michael Jackson's greatest illusions. Was Michael Jackson simply the most gifted performer of his generation? Or was he something closer to a master illusionist who happened to sing and dance? For nearly 4 decades, the king of pop blurred the line between choreography and stage magic so completely that even trained eyes struggled to spot the mechanism behind the miracle. Behind almost every jaw-dropping moment sat a team of engineers, costume designers, and effects specialists working in total secrecy. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the true machinery behind his most unforgettable stage moments. Which one do you think required the most nerve to pull off live in front of thousands of people? Let us know by the end of this video. Hashtag the lean that broke the laws of physics. When the Smooth Criminal video first aired in 1988, viewers rewound their tapes over and over trying to understand how a human body could tilt forward a full 45 degrees without toppling over. The trick actually predates the famous shoe patent everyone talks about. In the original video, Jackson and his dancers achieved the lean using thin cables attached to a harness worn around the waist, anchored to hooks fixed into the set. That solution looked incredible on camera, but it was completely useless for a touring stage where the rig had to reset in seconds, night after night. So Jackson partnered with costume designers Michael Bush and Dennis Tompkins to solve the problem mechanically instead of with wires. Filed in 1992 and granted the following year as United States Patent 5,255,452. Method and means for creating anti-gravity illusion, described a shoe with a slotted heel that could slide forward and lock onto a hitch post rising through the stage floor. The moment the dancer's heel engaged the post, it became a fulcrum, letting the performer's entire body weight tilt forward well past their natural center of gravity, while the hitch quietly retracted flush with the floor whenever it wasn't needed. No cables, no visible hardware, just a shoe and a hidden peg doing the work of gravity-defying physics. It still demanded serious core strength and split-second timing from everyone wearing those shoes, which is part of why so few performers have ever managed to replicate the move convincingly. Hashtag vanishing through a wall of steel spikes. During the History World Tour of 1996 and 1997, the Thriller finale ended with a sequence that left grown adults gasping. Jackson climbed into a plain wooden crate on stage, and within seconds 50 enormous steel spikes were driven straight through the box from every angle. When stagehands finally pried the crate open, it was completely empty. Moments later, Jackson reappeared soaring above the crowd on a suspended crane. The trick, sometimes referred to by illusion insiders as the spiker, was engineered by longtime collaborator Franz Harary, an illusion designer who worked alongside Jackson for more than 20 years. The real secret lived beneath the stage rather than inside the box. A precisely timed trapdoor released Jackson into a hidden chute the instant the lights dimmed, giving him just enough cover to be replaced by a decoy structure before the spikes ever made contact. From there, he was guided beneath the stage to the crane's launch point. What looks like a single continuous illusion on camera was actually several separate mechanisms firing in exact sequence, hidden by nothing more than clever blocking and aggressive lighting cues. Would you have been able to spot the trapdoor if you were sitting in the front row? Hashtag leaving the stadium by rocket. At the close of the 1992 to 1993 Dangerous World Tour, Jackson closed his set by strapping into what appeared to be a functioning jetpack, rising off the stage in full astronaut gear, and flying out through the stadium roof in front of tens of thousands of fans. It's one of the boldest exits in the history of live music, and only part of it was actually Jackson. He did put on the helmet and suit himself and made a visible show of it on stage, but he dropped through a concealed trapdoor almost immediately afterward and was rushed out of the venue by car while the crowd was still looking up at the sky. His place was taken by professional stunt pilot Kenny Gibson, dressed in an identical suit, who genuinely flew a real Bell rocket belt out over the audience. The rocket belt itself is a real, if extremely rare, piece of aviation technology first developed decades earlier, capable of only around 30 seconds of flight time, which is exactly why the stunt needed to be timed to the second. Hashtag 90 seconds of silence that broke television history. The 1993 Super Bowl 27 halftime show remains one of the most studied moments in the history of live broadcasting, and not because of anything Jackson actually did. Wearing his signature black jacket, fedora, and gold armband, Jackson appeared to teleport from beneath the stage directly to a platform overlooking the field while thousands of screens and lighting cues distracted the stadium. What followed was almost unthinkable for television. Jackson stood completely motionless and silent for roughly 90 seconds while more than 100,000 people in the stadium, and over 100 million more watching at home, waited in total suspense. Working closely with director Vincent Patterson, Jackson deliberately withheld the performance rather than opening with it, betting that anticipation would hit harder than spectacle. The gamble worked spectacularly. That halftime show became the first in Super Bowl history to actually increase television viewership during the break instead of losing it, permanently changing how networks and artists approached the halftime slot afterward. Have you ever noticed how modern halftime shows still use that exact same trick of delayed reveal? Hashtag gliding backward into pop culture. Jackson debuted the moonwalk on March 25, 1983, during the Motown 25. Yesterday, Today, Forever television special, and the illusion of walking backward while appearing to glide forward instantly rewrote what audiences believed a human body could do. Contrary to popular belief, Jackson didn't invent the step from scratch. Street dancers had been performing versions of it since the late 1970s, and Jackson himself was taught the specific technique in 1981 by soul-trained dancers Jaron, Casper Candidate and Cooley Jackson. The mechanics rely entirely on how weight shifts between the feet. The dancer rises onto the ball of one foot, transfers all their body weight onto it, and slides the flat trailing foot backward across the floor without ever fully lifting it, while the front leg straightens to complete the visual glide. It takes hundreds of repetitions to make that weight transfer look effortless rather than mechanical, which is exactly why so few people can pull it off with Jackson's fluidity even today. Hashtag the sideways glide few people talk about. Less famous than the moonwalk but built on similar principles, the sidewalk glide, also called the side slide, let Jackson move laterally across the stage as though he were skating on ice. Rooted in the same popping and street dance subcultures of the late 1970s that produced the moonwalk, this move uses a heel-to-toe weight transfer instead of a straight backward slide. The dancer commits their full weight onto the toe of one foot while pushing laterally against the floor, while the opposite foot rolls smoothly from heel to toe to maintain the illusion of frictionless motion. It's a smaller trick than the moonwalk but arguably requires even sharper balance control. Hashtag fighting his own shadow. During the History Tour's rendition of Smooth Criminal, Jackson performed against a massive backlit screen, appearing to battle a silhouette that mirrored his every pop, lock, and spin, right up until the shadow suddenly broke character, produced a weapon, and opened fire while Jackson himself stood completely frozen. There was no motion capture technology involved. The entire silhouette sequence had been pre-recorded and projected, meaning Jackson's live movements had to match a fixed piece of footage exactly, night after night, city after city. The synchronization depended entirely on an audio click track fed directly into his in-ear monitors, giving him a silent metronome that marked every single cue down to the millisecond. One missed beat and the illusion would have collapsed instantly in front of a packed arena. That's the kind of pressure most performers never have to think about. Hashtag changing faces, changing the industry. The 1991 video for Black or White introduced the world to a visual effect that had never been broadcast at that scale before. A seamless morph from one human face into another. The effects studio Pacific Data Images built a feature-based morphing algorithm, developed by researchers Thaddeus Beyer and Sean Neely, that let artists manually draw alignment curves across shared facial landmarks like the eyes, nose, and mouth of two completely different people, then blend the layers of skin, hair, and features between them in a smooth digital cross-dissolve. When roughly 500 million viewers across 27 countries watched the sequence unfold in real time, it didn't just impress audiences, It fundamentally reset what visual effects artists believed was achievable on a television budget. And the underlying technology went on to influence blockbuster films for years afterward. ## when the crowd genuinely lost control. Throughout his stadium tours, entire sections of the audience would sometimes collapse, sob uncontrollably, or faint the instant Jackson turned his head toward them. It looked like hypnosis, but the real explanation is grounded in documented crowd psychology. Months of anticipation, deafening sound levels, packed crowd density, and dehydration from long hours in the heat pushed spectators to their physical limit. When Jackson's attention finally landed on a section of fans already running on pure adrenaline, the sudden emotional spike could trigger vasovagal syncope, a real and well-documented fainting response, turning basic human physiology into what looked like proof of supernatural stage presence. ## a costume change faster than you can read this sentence. Jackson was famous for disappearing backstage mid-song and returning in a completely different, elaborately detailed outfit in under 15 seconds. Behind the scenes, Michael Bush and Dennis Tompkins engineered jumpsuits with concealed zippers, Velcro fastening strips, and elastic seams built specifically for speed. In near-total darkness, a small team of wardrobe assistants would strip away the outer layer and lock the new costume into place in one coordinated motion, a level of backstage choreography that rivaled anything happening under the spotlights. ## tears that were real and also rehearsed. During live performances of Man in the Mirror, Jackson would drop to his knees in visible emotional distress, appearing completely overtaken by the song's message. Audiences experienced it as spontaneous, but Jackson himself treated it as a genuine acting technique, drawing on real feelings about humanitarian causes to produce the same emotional response on command, night after night. It served a practical purpose too, giving him a brief physical recovery window after an exhausting dance sequence, a detail most fans never noticed. One of the most cited examples of this moment came during his performance at the 1988 Grammy Awards. ## becoming a werewolf on camera. The 1983 Thriller video remains one of the most influential pieces of visual storytelling ever produced for music. Television, largely because of Rick Baker's practical transformation effects. Baker created a full plaster life cast of Jackson's face, then sculpted a series of progressively more extreme foam latex prosthetics representing each stage of the transformation. Rather than relying on any kind of animatronic rigging, the sequence was built through stop-motion replacement photography, swapping between physical masks frame by frame and blending the transitions with careful cross-dissolves in post-production. It's a technique that predates modern CGI entirely, and it still holds up decades later. ## an amusement park built from photographs. The 1989 video for Leave Me Alone tackled Jackson's frustration with tabloid gossip through a surreal, almost dreamlike amusement park built entirely from photo collage and rotoscoping, without a single frame of green screen. Animators spent roughly 9 months manually layering thousands of individual photographic cutouts, then shot them one frame at a time on glass sheets to produce the video's signature floating bed sequence, sending Jackson gliding past a caricature of Elizabeth Taylor and dancing alongside the Elephant Man's skeleton. The painstaking blend of live footage and stop-motion collage helped the video earn a Grammy for Best Short-Form Music Video. ## a 32-foot statue and a message about power. To promote the 1995 History album, Jackson commissioned one of the most expensive and controversial marketing stunts in music history, a $4 million shoot in Budapest featuring real Hungarian troops marching before a 32-foot steel and fiberglass statue of Jackson in full military regalia. 9 separate copies of the statue, each weighing roughly 2 tons, were later floated down rivers and craned into public squares across major European cities, including London and Berlin. Whatever people thought of the imagery, it was never meant purely as spectacle. Coming after years of relentless tabloid scrutiny, the statue functioned as a very deliberate, very public assertion of control over his own image. ## dancing in zero gravity without leaving the ground. The 1995 video for Scream, with Janet Jackson, still holds the record as one of the most expensive music videos ever produced, with a budget north of $7 million. Rather than relying on green screen compositing, production designer Tom Foden built between 11 and 13 full-scale physical set pieces across 3 separate soundstages at Universal Studios. To fake zero gravity, engineers designed a multi-axis wire rig that let both performers essentially run and jump across walls and ceilings as though gravity had simply stopped applying to them, while camera operators tilted their lenses into steep Dutch angles that matched each performer's position, completing the illusion that the entire room was tumbling around them. #Vanishing beneath a sheet. The closing illusion of the thriller sequence on both the Bad and Dangerous tours saw a group of monsters drape an enormous opaque sheet over Jackson for barely a second before whipping it away to reveal an empty stage. The mechanism depended on a fast-acting trapdoor, upgraded during the late 1980s with pneumatic pistons that could snap open and shut far faster than older counterweight systems ever could. Jackson would drop blindfolded onto a padded crash mat directly beneath the stage the instant the trapdoor released, trusting split-second timing with his own safety every single night. #A house built like a puzzle box. Neverland Ranch wasn't simply a home. It was designed as an immersive environment where guests could feel like they'd stepped into a story. Working again with longtime effects collaborator Franz Harary, Jackson had the main house fitted with hidden passageways, movable bookcases, and disguised doors built directly into the architecture, turning ordinary hallways into a genuine physical playground of illusion. From vanishing trapdoors to century-defining visual effects, Jackson treated every stage, every video set, and even his own home as a canvas for illusion. It took a rare mix of raw physical discipline and cutting-edge engineering to make all of it look effortless. Which one of these illusions surprised you the most? And which stage secret do you want broken down next? Drop your answer in the comments below.